Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Aida Farhat, and I'll be your host today, along with Brian Singh. Brian Singh is co-hosting the show today. We have our special guest, James Casbolt. James, welcome to Cosmic Ruh. I think we're both super excited that you're here, and we get to connect with you and learn more about what you're doing today and some of your past experiences. Let me just give you a proper introduction. James Casbolt, a former Project IBIS participant and early voice in the UAP and Super-Soldier Disclosure movement, joins Cosmic Ruh Podcast to share his journey of resilience and truth. After years of under government gag orders and recent release from prison, James now expresses his message through music, symbolic storytelling, revealing what he can and when he can, and to awaken the collective awareness. Is that sufficient? Okay.
Yeah, that's quite accurate. Just come out of prison. Well, I've just come off license last year, but the gag order is still in place. So there's certain things. There's a lot I can't say. There's a lot I can say. Also, I've been getting the same question over and over being sent to me, which is, am I going to the Full Disclosure conference in December? So I want to address that as well, mainly, yeah.
And this is Miles Johnston, our good friend Miles Johnston's Full Disclosure conference coming up in December there in the UK. What part is it going to be at, James, and what are the exact dates?
So yeah, this is the thing, I don't know. I know it's in Wiltshire.
Wiltshire.
It's near the place where I was in prison, but I don't know the exact dates. I mean, I'm not really a mouthpiece for the conference. The thing is with it, it's difficult because when I came out of prison, I was on license for 5 years, and so probation were in charge of me. And to cut a long story short, they put me in quite a ghetto area, quite an impoverished, deprived area. It's called Camborne. It's one of the poorest places in Europe. And I'm not having to go at my probation officer. She did as much as she could, but often her hands were tied. But she tried to help me as much as she could. But I was there for 5 years, from December 2019 till the end of 2024. And I would have been there for another 5 years if I wouldn't have taken it on myself to get out of that area. And I had to move in with family members into another area. So my housing situation is, I'm under a lot of pressure with my housing situation. So my life is far from stable. So until things become more stable for me, it's difficult for me to have complete freedom for me to attend. So to cut a long story short, I won't be attending in December.
Wow.
Okay.
Because my housing situation is too unstable.
Okay. Well, hopefully things will change for the better between now and then. During our own Full Disclosure Now conference in Florida this last July, you were kind enough to do a pre-recorded message that Miles Johnston brought to share with us, in which we played and is now part of the live stream recording. And we greatly appreciate that. I have to admit, James, I'm not as familiar with your own Super-Soldier Secret Space Program testimony as I am with many of the people that I have personally encountered as of 2023, since I co-organized the Montauk Adventure Tour with Aida Aida was part of that as well. When we had 20 or so people there at Camp Hero Air Force Base and the surrounding area in August of 2023, and
that's understandable because I disappeared for half a decade.
Yes,
so that's completely understandable.
Exactly, and your first emergence on the scene that I'm aware of was when Miles Johnston with his Bases project in the UK was interviewing you and Max Spears as well, and the both of you and Miles were, I think, making a lot of headway for the movement to inform the world at large that, hey, there's Black Goo and there's MK Ultra and there's Super-Soldier programs and MI6 is involved in the CIA, and you're name dropping everybody, which I greatly appreciate. And then we know that Max came under heavy attack, and I believe from our good friend Sarah R. Adams that he was assassinated, and she's shared emails with me from the Polish police where they believe that.
Well,
and
the thing is, Max and I both came back from America at the same time in 2013.
Okay.
And I went straight into prison. 3 years later, Max was dead.
Right. And that really seemed to quash the whole ability of the public to even begin to understand what's going on until later on, when I'd say, Journey shows, podcasts like Journey to Truth, we're interviewing people like Mark Demizio and Tony Rodriguez and others to speak about the secret space programs. And so now that you're out, back and available for interview, it's great because we didn't have that ability while you were away for 10 years.
I was away 10 years. I did over half a decade in prison. Then I was on license for another 5 years.
Okay.
Again, I was in this deprived area through probation. I couldn't really talk. The gag order was there. I couldn't really talk. And the gag order is still in place. It's not as harsh as it was, but it's still, I can't talk about certain people. I can't talk about certain things. And I don't know. I'm in a position where I can't even access a lawyer to know how long does this go on for? How long can't I talk about this for? I can't, it's difficult to access a lawyer. It's difficult to access stable housing. This is the situation I'm in.
Yeah. And especially when you're a whistleblower, the state isn't exactly going to be the most supportive. And then, as many of our audience may be aware, in the UK right now, there's a lot of issues, not just with like the UK economy, but it's a lot of it's related to housing and a flood of migration from Northern Africa, which has been devastated from a lot of decades of warfare, and so it's a big mess.
Yeah, definitely. I get help, and then things go quiet, and I get help from unusual areas. Whereas I'm getting help from the music industry of all places. I've got advocates popping up in the music industry who are quite high level. People connected to 50 Cent. I've got a G Unit 50 Cent producer producing my second album. His name's Adrian Wood, and he's just produced this track that Aida was talking about.
Oh, good, excellent. Well, then see, you're
quite
finding ways.
Impressive, I must say, quickly, Brian. The song, I listened to his interview or his I would call it chronicles that Bob Osborne is doing with James Casbolt, and he shared part of the song this morning, and I was super impressed. I mean, it was great, and the lyrics I wasn't able to fully get. Maybe you'll share some more about what because I have questions for that, but later we can. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's get for your testimony, James. Just for those of us in the audience who aren't familiar with your testimony, could you please, and I know for a lot of people in our community, it's almost like there's like two tracks. There's the one of what happened to you as far as you can tell in linear time, and then there's a whole process of getting back these memories and then piecing it together, and you probably didn't get the memories back perfectly in linear time. But maybe just for the sake of narrative and explanation for everybody, my understanding is that you are a cloned super soldier.
Well, I went public in 2006, so I'd been all over. I'd been all over the world before that, and during the previous 2 decades, I've been in many countries, doing many operations. Whether I'm cloned is very complicated. I'm definitely been tampered with on a physical level
Okay.
with my body, you know.
Okay, and we know that in our community, Penny Bradley, when she was in her mother's womb back in the 1950s, she says that she was they used CRISPR technology on her in the womb to inject Draco DNA into her system. Do you know?
Yeah, I would say I've definitely got Draco reptilian DNA. Yeah, I mean I've
Okay.
got this sort of skin condition where I get patterns on the back of my head and things, and around my neck, and they come up like sort of the diamond shape on a scale of a snake, things like that.
Mm.
So now, do you know how you were targeted initially as a child for the programs? Was it your parents brought you in somehow, or
Well,
bloodline?
I don't think I was targeted. I think I was born into it.
Okay, because of your bloodline
I mean,
of
it's
a family genetics.
no, I think it runs even deeper than that. I think it's the facility in Canada, the Q552 in British Columbia, Nelson. The infants were there. So where are the sort of $1 million question is, where do those infants actually come from to be in that facility in the first place?
The infants, babies,
Babies, infants, yeah,
children.
yeah, because we were there from babies till good for maybe 4 years old.
Okay, and then like what is your, how did you come to be in that base, and then where did you go from there?
Well, that's the thing. How did we come to be in that base? That's, as I'm saying, that's the $1 million question. Where did we come from to be in the base?
Because you don't know if you were trafficked or like let me ask you this: are you aware of who your biological parents are?
No.
Okay, so then it's like a mystery, and then you were in the base there at Nelson, and and was it an underground military base?
Yeah, pretty much. Some parts were above ground, and then from there taken to Canada, and then a lot of the children were taken to, Toronto rather, because we were in Canada, obviously. A lot of children were taken to Toronto. And then the memories of being in a classroom, so there's a lot of tall skyscrapers in Toronto. We were in a classroom at the top of a tall skyscraper, and a guy brought in like an insectoid ET into the classroom. And that was, and then the memories from there being brought back to London, back to the UK by the parents after that.
No, when you say the parents, these are your biological parents?
No, the parents that's kind of, no, the non-biological parents. I suppose maybe call them foster parents, but it's the situation so confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Whether who's going to sit down and have a DNA test, it's, who's going to do that?
Okay, so it's still clouded in mystery for you.
Yeah.
Okay, and then when you were brought as children to that classroom, say Toronto,
Yeah.
and the insectoid was introduced to you, was
Yeah.
that because of a conditioning thing? They wanted to see how the children would react, or they wanted to get you as children used to dealing with an ET life form? What
No,
would you?
I don't think it was to get us used to dealing with NHI, because we were dealing with them on a regular basis at the facility in Nelson.
Already? Okay.
So we were already doing that. So the reason it seemed to be had these little mandibles and making this buzzing noise, some kind of, I suppose you call it, telepathic connection with us took place.
Was it trying to teach you? So were you there for instruction then? And you're for there specifically for instruction from that being?
We were definitely there for some kind of connection.
Okay.
Yeah, instruction was probably a good word.
Now, do you remember any of your classmates were in that group?
It's very hazy.
A long time ago.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not.
Okay.
I mean, my cousin was in the same place. She grew up in Toronto, but that was the family that who I was taken to the UK by from Toronto.
Are you still in contact with her, and does she have any recall?
It's a bit. They were in Canada for years, and they moved to Australia, and she disappeared.
Okay.
And nobody that heard from her for about 15 years or so. She just disappeared. And
Okay.
nobody's heard from her since.
So then for you, when you were brought by, say, your foster parents from Canada to the UK, about how old were you? And then
Yeah,
what?
four or five.
Okay. And then from there, were you still being put through the programs as far as you can tell?
Yeah, we went to Golders Green, the Jewish area in North London first, and that was where Henry Kissinger came when he came to the UK from Europe. He first came through the Golders Green area, the Jewish area in North London, then to the States. So I was in that area first,
So
Golders Green,
did you
North
have to
London.
interact? Did you have to interact with Henry Kissinger?
Well, he was a big part of things later on, without a doubt. Michigan, Grand Rapids. Yeah, he was always there. Yeah.
Okay. And then from then, were you entered into, say, the UK school system, and did they have you in anything like gifted and talented programs, or what happened from there once you got to
From
the UK?
Well, from there we went over to Berkshire near the Peasmore base, deep in the Berkshire countryside, to my school Deanfield. So we moved from London to Reading, which is in Berkshire, just outside London. And I was put in some of the programs there for unusual children, put it that way. At Deanfield, this was near the Peasmore base in the Berkshire countryside.
And about from what ages were
Uh,
you interacting there at the Peasmore base, would you say, or in that region?
You go to secondary school when you're around 12 or 13. So I started that school because I was at the primary school in Berkshire. The primary school at the end of my road in Reading in Berkshire. And I was about 12, and they said, right, you have to go to secondary school now. But most of the kids went to the secondary school, which was right next to the primary school. But they said, I can't go there. I have to go to the one deep in the Berkshire countryside near Peasmore.
Okay, so they wanted you in that area, and then
Yeah.
do you believe they were taking you to for missions or programming, or what do you think? Why did they want you near Peasmore base?
They wanted us there. I mean, we took a school trip to Jersey, the island of Jersey, and that's known for kind of, I suppose you call it satanic ritual activity. Went on a school trip to Jersey. And there was it was almost trauma-based conditioning. There was many fights, so much fighting going on. It was mixed race. It's very racial tension school. There's a lot of Jamaican kids, a lot of white kids. And I got smashed up to pieces and broke my arm, ended up in the hospital getting cut open and metal put inside me to put my bones back together. That's how serious some of the violence was at the school.
That's pretty bad.
Near Peasmore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so at that time during your youth, would you say a lot of the recall is more for ritualistic purposes versus, say, because there's a lot of aspects of these programs. I mean, there's the abuse, there's the rituals, there's the programming, and then there's like the whole, then putting people into clone or avatar bodies using their alter consciousnesses to go on missions. And it sounds like during this period of time, was it more, they were more using the children for the abuse and ritual purposes? Or were they also doing things like taking you for 20 and backs as well as that?
I think there's an aspect of the 20 and backs later on, but for this stage, it was just you were being hurt, so you would just agree to anything just for the pain to stop. so you wouldn't be hurt anymore. So you were just, it was getting the control protocols in place, I would say, for the 20 and backs that took place later.
Okay, it's like this is a period of programming because you're still relatively young, and then later on they took you, and then for the 20 and back. About how, or would you say you've gone on 120 and back, or do you think you've gone on several, or do you have any awareness
I
of?
think this was around 2003 at the Man's Head site, the extraction point in St. Ives. This is where the TR3s and different exotic craft were coming in and taking you off. You know, there's an undersea, the Lyoness base, and you know, it gets into OP off planet stuff where the distances are so vast and so different that it's not so much maybe time travel. Well, I say maybe it's because the physical distances are so unusual. That's what's affecting the time.
Right, there's lots of things that make it so that what we perceive as linear time, it's not really, especially with all the relativistic effects, and then throw in time travel on top of all that, and it makes it probably makes it hard to really get an accurate sense sometimes.
Well, I try and understand it on a physical level. I try and use epistemology where I try and get the basis of knowledge itself, and I'm very much a materialist where I won't talk about something unless there's physical evidence, whether there's eyewitness accounts. You know, I was with Jan Rodrigo at the time, and we were outside his mother's house in St. Ives on a place called Draycott Terrace. And a light started to approach from the ocean, and then a light started to approach from the other side of his mother's house. And they were on a collision course to hit each other. They looked like two planes. They were on collision course to hit each other, and they collided over the top of his mother's house. And instead of an explosion and metal raining down, I just remember being levitated up. And next thing I know, I'm in a cockpit of some plane or something with an oxygen mask and an aircraft, like an Air Force helmet, and going out the dock bay doors of an aircraft. So that sounds like a 20 and back thing to me.
Yeah, it took you on a mission.
Yeah, but I think it was just I was there for a while. It wasn't just a quick, maybe 2 days.
So can I, if you don't mind, Brian? So that area that you're referring to, James, I know that you did. I think it was Basis 9, where you went out with a blonde lady. I forget her name, and Miles, and you guys were.
That was Basis 20. Yeah, that was Basis 24. Yeah. Okay.
Is that the area you're referring to?
Yeah, that's the area, the extraction point there.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. That's the area.
Yeah.
About how old were you when that happened, James?
I was in my late 20s then, when that was going on with Jan Rodrigo, and then I was banned from St. Ives by probation for 5 years. I couldn't go into St. Ives after I came out of prison.
Okay. So when you were going back to when you were, say, around 12, and then they were bringing you to that Peasmore base, and they were sending you at school, what happened from there? Would you say was it you from there you lived as far as you could tell a fairly normal grade school life, and then they were doing things to you and memory wiping you, or were you very conscious of all this stuff happening to you throughout your childhood?
I think they were mind wiping me. I mean, there was so much violence taking place in Reading, in Berkshire, that my family moved me to Cornwall, to St. Ives, when I was about 15. And then, so officially on record, on paper, I grew up in Cornwall in St. Ives throughout my 20s. But I mean, I've seen some of my NSA files, and I believe they're authentic files, and I believe the person is authentic. supplied this to me, and it shows that I was in all different countries, South America, places like that, on operation. Mexico, Brazil, a facility called Plume in Brazil, in a place called Manaus in Brazil.
We know that from Tony Rodriguez's testimony that he, as a child, was used as an asset in Latin America as well as off-planet.
Well, I talk about this in my book, Agent Buried Alive Part 2, that's coming out, Escape from Tartarus. So many of the operations were centered in Latin America.
So what kinds of operations were going on down there, and how were they involving you?
Well, they were using like standard rocket ships deep in the jungle there. It was very a good cover from satellite, and they were just using normal rocket ships to go up onto the platforms, the space program platforms. There was also like a kind of communist group, a communist faction, which was definitely to do with the Jesuits. The Jesuits are huge in Latin America, and there was assassinations taking place to get the geopolitical order in place that's taking place now, for what's going to take place now as we go into the 2030s.
Because during your time there, would you say this was like the late 90s, or when were you?
Yeah,
would you say?
This was 90s, mid to late 90s, and I was in my 20s. But I was also then coming back to Cornwall. But people who knew me in Cornwall are saying that they don't understand because they saw me in Cornwall. So how was I in Latin America? But I was going off all the time to London. I was getting the train to London, back to Berkshire, back to Reading. And then my father was an international drug trafficker. He was involved with Howard Marks. I mean, he's dead now, so I can talk about it. He died in prison. And so I'm in other countries, not Latin American countries, but I'm in Latin countries like Spain and places like that with my father during the 90s when I was in my 20s as well. So I was out the country with him.
And what kind of missions were they sending you on when they were utilizing you in Latin America during the 90s period?
There was assassinations taking place. There was a lot of... There was places that were very remote, and there was like skinwalkers there, and skinwalker type rituals that were going on with kind of indigenous people that have not much contact with civilization. And the government were very interested in them and sending super soldiers, if you want to call them that, into those areas.
So they'd rather send you in than, say, just a regular squad of their guides that wouldn't have any idea of what they're dealing with or how to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, dealing with skinwalkers, and it's stuff that will send you insane. I mean, I've been tested by psychiatrists for years, over the last 10 years. And according to them, I'm still sane, but some of the things that I've seen... I mean, I've seen werewolves, I've seen dogmen, I've seen that. I've seen that in broad daylight, fully conscious in the United States. We're not talking about Latin American jungle. I've seen it fully conscious in the United States.
Was this when you were being utilized as an asset?
This was when I was with Max in Texas. We were in Texas together, and we were having beef, and I'd gone up to stay with a friend in California in San Bernardino. And then we saw two dogmen in broad daylight. They chased the truck we were in broad daylight.
Okay, so that was just you out and about in California as a civilian.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can imagine what's happening on the Black Ops if that's just taking place out and about as a civilian.
But were you in the woods? Because San Bernardino is...
No, we were in the middle of the city. This is the strange thing. This is a huge, busy California city. And he picked me up at the train station. He had a little place in San Bernardino. Picked me up at the train station. We drive into his place. All of a sudden, the streets became really quiet. And we're talking like a place that's a bit like LA. Well, probably not as busy as LA, but busy California city. The streets became really quiet. It's in the middle of the afternoon. And we drove around the corner. I saw what I thought was a homeless guy with 2 bears on a leash. And he let them off, and they started off on all fours, running after the truck on all fours. And then they got up on 2 legs and started chasing the truck on 2 legs.
So it's almost like they were targeting you, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, he waited for us. It was like a guy with, he had long black hair, sunglasses. He had a leash in each hand with these 2 things that I thought were bears. Because you're not going to say to yourself, oh, look, there's a guy with 2 werewolves or 2 dogmen. And I thought they were bears. And he let them off the leash, and they started chasing the truck. And one of them tried to bite. I had my arm out on the window, just resting my elbow. One of them tried to bite my arm through the window.
And then so then what happened? You just drove away and got away?
He just put his foot to the gas. And I've heard they can keep up with cars. I've heard they can run on 2 legs at 80 miles an hour, but they didn't on this occasion.
How freaked out was your buddy?
He had the same reaction as me. He seemed to be completely calm. I was completely calm. My heart rate didn't even go up.
It's like, okay.
He seems to have the same reaction.
Is he familiar? Because is he familiar with the secret space programs and the?
Well, he was in the military.
Okay.
His name was Jay. He actually did an interview with Miles, but then he disappeared after that.
So then, at what point did you decide, James, to come out in public with your testimony, and how solid was your recall up to that time?
Oh, it was far from solid. It was some would argue that it was too early for me to come out. That was in 2006.
Okay, so you're still kind of putting together everything at that point for yourself.
I mean, there's no way I could talk about it now, like I'm talking about it now. I'm relaxed. I'm confident because I know it's real, so I can talk about it. But back then, I was like a stuttering idiot. I was like, and.
I'd like to say something about that, James. I think you did amazing work. Your testimonies were absolutely fascinating and very telling. And I mean, I've watched all your work. Everything that you've come out with, I've watched. I've listened to. I think there was one of your originals where you were with the guy on a radio show. So neither one of y'all were on the screen. I have it. If I find it, I'll let you know what I'm talking about. But you were talking about all these things and about, putting blue bubbles around your house and protection and the Pleiadians. Like, I remember all of it. And I think even the one that you did on the bases about your skin, having certain types of skin to protect from battle, like it grows through your, I forgot what you called it, like a cybernetic type skin to protect you when you're being used in these, I can't remember the name of it. I'm sorry. But I think you did. So many people learned from you and remembered, and kind of like when people are speaking truth and they really believe what they're saying, and there's enough details in the storytelling to make sense, to be able to make sense and grasp what you're saying. I think you did a great job. I just need to say that.
Thank you, Aida. I mean, I used to get so nervous back then because it was so difficult to talk about. And part of me used to think, am I making this up? What's going on here? What am I doing? And then I used to talk about things and think, am I making this up? And then a year or two later, it was confirmed by like a video of it would turn up physically. So it would vindicate me that, keep going.
Yeah. They want us to think that we're crazy and like making things up and don't understand what we're remembering, and it must be some kind of delusional whatever. But that's usually the bleed throughs that come through that they don't want to expose. And I also know that they like to scramble people's minds and their DNA to create confusion.
Yeah. I mean, they
Yeah.
do that. They still do that.
Yes.
But you
Well,
know,
James, what kind of
sorry,
video? What kind of video would you say? Like, can you please share an example of a video
well,
that would pop up later that you felt like vindicated you?
well, I mean, a grid keeper video, a John Leonard Wilson video popped up with one of us on a bed with an alien next to the bed. That video popped up, and it was only like 5-second video, and grid keeper looped it and put it onto his YouTube, and then the first person I went public with in 2006 was a journalist called Dave Starbuck from up north in Birmingham, and he called me one night and he said that there's some kind of UFO outside his window, and then he started freaking out. I was in Cornwall. This was late at night. He called me. He started freaking out. He said, "It's getting closer. It's getting closer." And as he was getting closer, I could hear this hum, and the hum was getting louder, and it actually disconnected our telephone line when it got too close. And then I said, try and make contact with it. I said, like, say hello to them and wave at them. So he said hello and waved at them. I said, ask them to open a hatch, open a window. And he asked them to do that. And then a hatch opened with a window, and two beings come to the window. And there was a person on the bed, unconscious, behind him, behind the two beings at the hatch. This was because he lived quite high story block. And I think that's where the video came from. The person on the bed, on this bench, on this bed, unconscious, with these two little coloured beings. I think that's where the John Leonard Wilson Gridkeeper video came from that night, that event.
As your buddy was being
Yeah.
visited.
Yeah, and he was quite old then. He was like in his 70s, and he retired to Spain. But yeah, so that was fully conscious taking place, and there was video evidence of it.
Can I ask a question,
Cool.
James? So this is going to kind of shift it a little bit, but of course we can come back. You said Basis 24 was where you, okay. Do you remember being it looked like y'all were in a basement or in a house at the end of that video where you were talking about Miles had asked you something. I'm using this in my presentation in the UK, by the way. There's a clip of you and what you're sharing as part of my presentation, but you had mentioned Miles had asked you what was the significance of Saturn, right? Yeah. And you were talking about the Illuminati searching down people, Christ beings from ancient. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And you said something about women being taken to Saturn, a Saturn moon, potentially being hung by a tree upside down, satanic ritual, killing them. And he said, what was the significance? And you said they were looking for ancient Christed people. Like, do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you speak to that at all? Because the reason I'm bringing it up, I have memory of being hung by my feet and being sacrificed, and it's already been confirmed. I'll talk more after you share.
I mean, that's such a deep, complex subject. Again, I try and connect things on an epistemological basis where I'll try and talk about it if there's some material evidence. My cousin's a pro surfer, and he had a near-death experience recently in Tahiti, where he basically hit the reef and he was gone for like a couple of minutes. He was underwater and he had a heart attack and he died. They found him floating face down. They had to go in with the jet skis and rescue him. But during his near-death experience, he went to a tunnel, said to the moon, and then went to a tunnel. And what he was describing was like Saturn. And he said he came up to a tree, and it wasn't a wooden tree. It was like a metallic or crystal tree. This is the trees that I was describing on Basis 24, and they're not metallic, and they're on Saturn.
You use the word alloyed. I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Bill Schnoebelen talks about his experiences in Saturn, going to all
Well,
the moons of
I can tell
Saturn.
you that I absolutely believe what you shared about it, only because I have recall of being in this lifetime, not a past life, where I was abducted, I was taken, and it was after having a full blown kundalini. Is everything okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I had a full blown kundalini activation, so I was fully lit, and I was able to create out of thought. I was manifesting very, very easily. Things were going very nice in my life at that time, and I didn't fully understand what I was experiencing. I knew it felt really good, and things seemed to be going well in my life, and I got severely targeted. And I had connected with Laura Eisenhower, who did a reading on me and said, Ida, I've been doing over 1,000 readings I've done, and I've never seen cards fall like this. You're nothing but pure light. Well, at that time I was, not now, because I've come back down into the body. My light body is not activated the way it was. But I also am aware that I hold Magdalene DNA, right? So I believe at that time I had hit my what we would call Christhood, or my Christ. My crown chakra was lit up, and they targeted me for that. And when I saw your interview with Miles, and you mentioned that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what happened to me. They were pushing me like you push a child on a swing, like they were trying to blow my body up. At first, they were chasing me around, and they had these long prongs. They were trying to put them in both sides of my head. And I got away from the guy. And the next thing you know, I'm in a tree, hung by my feet. And I flipped up and untied my feet and flipped out of it and ran and got away. And I had a few conversations with Simon Park, several, not a few, who he said, Ida, you're a powerful soul. And your father always knew who you are, but didn't want to tell you because he didn't want to disrupt your spiritual development. I think my father had something to do with me being used in these projects and programs. But anyways, I just wanted to say thank you for that particular interview that you did with Miles, because it was super helpful for me to be able to put together and piece together and have a better understanding of what I experienced. I'm very fortunate to be alive right now.
I think that there's definitely a big connection with Saturn, and that's those bloodlines are being focused on from the Middle East, the ones you mentioned. I mean, we're talking about this on Friday at the recording studio. The songs about the bloodlines that go back to the Middle East, the bloodlines that go back to those ancient bloodlines. And I'm using words in the song that a lot of it's not even in English. And it's in a language that I'm not sure. And it's also names that aren't in the Bible, and it's connecting to what was going on then. So it connects going through those Celtic bloodlines, Celtic Cornwall, Celtic Scotland, Celtic Ireland, Celtic France, back to the Holy Land, the Middle East, and then jumping. There's the connections to Saturn. So
well, it's been confirmed, not just by, first off, I was told it, but also I do hold, I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Amir Jahangari. He will be presenting it. Okay. He's there in the UK, and I would love to link you up. Maybe we could do a show with him also one day if you feel up to it. But he confirmed, because I was told that my father was Elohim, and I asked him, he wouldn't tell me who my dad, I wanted more details about my father. And he said, I can't, I won't do that out of respect to his soul. I said, okay, well, you just answer this question. Was he Elohim? And he said, yes. So
I would love to go to the conference and meet this guy, and I would really want to go to the conference.
I mean, how can I help you get there? Is there something I can do to help you?
It's my housing situation. It's just too unstable. I mean, I've got this. I'd love to sit down with Miles as well and do a basis interview. I've got this DVD here, which is it's military US Army DVD, and it's me training on a military base in Missouri.
Yes.
And I'd love to sit down and doing an interview with Miles. I'd like to Miles to come down to Cornwall.
That's what I was going to say. I'm wondering.
Also, to put this footage onto the interview, because Miles has got his editing suite. He's got all that software, and add the video footage of me training at Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri onto the thing. But my housing situation is just too unstable at the moment.
Okay, so how about if I'll talk with Miles? I talk to Miles often. I mean, we talk at least 3 or 4 times a week. So I'll talk to him, and I'll be in touch with you, and see if we can't get it worked out. Maybe so I'm flying over in December for the conference, and see if we can't maybe take a day or two. I'll stay an extra day or two and drive down with him and meet you and see about doing the interview, having Miles interview you and collecting the video from you so that he can edit it and put it part of the.
I mean, I'd love to do that. And Bob is trying to organize that. Bob is trying to organize.
Well, I'll talk with Miles.
Miles and I to have a sit down and actually film it in Zena. But like I say, my situation is so unstable with my housing, and that's it.
Well, that's understandable. Well, maybe things, you never know. A lot can change in just a month. Maybe you can get permission, like an exceptional permission slip to be able to. Is it because you can't leave that area? Is that why?
No, I don't. The thing is, I'm not on probation anymore. My license finished last year, so I don't.
But so then what's the problem about getting you to the conference then?
Because the problem is that there's a lot of variables at play. My social situation is not stable. That's why
I understand.
My housing situation is not stable.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
James, going back to your testimony, I was going to ask you, was there like an aha moment for you where you realized, hey, these programs are real and that you're a part of them?
I mean, this was. The memory started to come back in 2003. And
how old were you in 2003?
That was late 20s. I did my first interview in my late 20s. I was about 29, so I was maybe one of the youngest whistleblowers to come out at the time. But I was still like, am I sure? Am I making this up? Where's this coming from? But yeah, the aha moment was around 2003. And I just spent time in Wiltshire, near Devizes, near where Miles lived. And I had to come back down to Cornwall. So, and that's where I did the prison sentence in Devizes, that's where Miles lives.
There are so many, Brian. I would be glad to go through. If you go into Bases Restricted, it's called Bases Restricted. You'll find in a lot of James's interviews with Miles. I mean, just going from the beginning, Bases Restricted. But even if not, that you would have to subscribe, which I'm a subscriber of the Bases TV, where he has all his content, a whole chronicle of James's testimony. I mean, it's so worth listening to. And as you're listening to James, you will feel like, okay, this is making sense. There's something very real about his testimony, without a doubt.
In 2006, Brian, I was starting to go to the UFO conferences, and I was involved with Bufora, the British UFO organization. And there was quite a well-known regressionist called Dave Coggins, quite an old guy in his 70s, retired. And he came down to Cornwall and hypnotized me, regressed me. And we began to pull out a lot of the memories then. This was 2006. So that was very much an aha moment. And I was having help from David Coggins from the Bufora organization. So, yeah.
And now, given that was back in 2006, and here we are, 2025, getting ready to wrap it up, the year, would you say that you've run into or encountered a lot of people in our community where you have recall of them or they have recall of you and vice versa?
Yeah. I mean, this was taking place very much when I was in the States back 2011, 2012, because I was so active there. I was getting planes from state to state, and I was meeting so many people. So that was definitely connecting and remembering people then. But I've been so isolated since then, so it's difficult to meet people and say, have I been involved with this person, or have I been involved with that person?
Well, there was a lady. Do you remember Erin Hicks?
Yeah.
She was a Rothschild. I mean, she believed that they were calling him Michael Prince at that time, believed him to be the lead of their, basically the handler of all the super soldiers from that series of super soldiers that were at the I forgot what that conference was in California.
That was the Henderson Super-Soldier Summit, but then we all fell out after that, and there was this huge beef between us all.
Okay, it happens. I mean,
Well, in that, I want to say here that this is part of it is, there's all the interpersonal stuff which most of the public doesn't really care about, and then there's our testimonies, and a lot of times in being able to get out our testimonies, we are just having to work out the interpersonal stuff in our community. And, it would be nice if they could be two totally separated things, but it seems sometimes that it goes together, working out things in the community and getting our testimonies out. And as we go forward, hopefully things will get better and better in the community as people come to a more united understanding, perhaps, of the same issues.
I hope things become more settled for me now that I'm off license, and my Agent Buried Alive Part 2 is just about to come out on Bob's website. He's making pre-orders available in the next couple of weeks, so that book's coming out. My rap albums come out on CD. That can be bought through Bob's channel. I'm working on my second rap album.
Well, what's Bob's channel? Where do we go to get to Bob's channel?
Yeah, the Rebel Not Taken.
It's in the comment section. But yes, Bob Osborne, Brian.
What's the website?
Bob Osborne. The
Rebel
website.
Not Taken.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rebel Not Taken. Yeah, he's based down here in Zena. I couldn't have gone public without him because it's so isolated down there. If you've seen Zena, it's a few houses in the middle of nowhere. Cornwall is so isolated. It's
You won't be there forever, James. Things are going to get better, and you're going to get more exposure, and people are going to start buying your CDs and your books, and I will do everything I can to help you to get the exposure. And I want to purchase a CD and a book, so I'll go to the website and do that. Or possibly, I don't know if Bob's going to come to the conference. Maybe I can get it while I'm there rather than pay for it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Bob will be at the conference and he will have a table there. So
okay, good. Well, then I'll purchase it then for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Brian's going to want a copy, and I'll pick one up for him. We do have next year. I would love to get you over here to be able to present at our conference, James, because this is my thing. There's so many new people that have come forward, and I am not minimizing or dismissing their testimonies, but there is nothing like the original ones, the original super soldiers. And I don't even like to use that word. I prefer augmented humans, right? I don't think there's anything super about what we've been used for, because it's not been for our benefit. It's been for the benefit of whoever's running these projects and programs. Most of us live very challenging lives.
I mean, I love the United States. I consider the United States my home. I consider the United States my home more than I consider Cornwall my home in so many ways. But it's whether can you get back into the United States after you've served over half a decade in prison? That's the question.
Well, I mean, if you've served your time and you're not on probation, I don't know why they wouldn't. I don't know. I'm going to look into it.
You never. That's a tough one. Now, I want to share this here. John Whitberg, he has a lot of recall of people in the community in the programs, and they likewise. I'm going to
step away for a second, guys.
Sure.
I'll be right back.
Sure.
Okay.
And he wrote the series of ebooks, which are based on his true testimony, The Man with the Periwinkle Eyes. And regarding you, James, John says he remembers you from one of his own altars named Heinrich. And you had an altar who was one of Karl Emmermann's sons named Terence Rudolph Brunner, or Terry, whom Emmermann treated considerably more harshly than the rest of the children. And this was because Emmermann was preparing his progeny to inherit his empire. Terry's psionic specialty was pyrokinesis. He could generate fire, and he may have been responsible for burning down the mythical ancient Chinese city of Xanadu. That's from John Whitberg's recalls. How does any of that ring a bell, James?
Well, what I can say is I started to speak German during one regression session. And as far as I know, I can't speak German.
Right. And a lot of people in the programs apparently have all these language abilities, but are behind mental firewalls. And so in our waking normal default state, we're not able to say access all of that. But then perhaps under regression, things like that will come out. And it sounds like it did.
Well, like I say, Agent Buried Alive 2 is about to come out. I mean, I've started to write Agent Buried Alive 3. That was years ago. And that goes back to the 1700s in Germany, living in Germany.
Because these are time travel during the projects now.
Or just life
reincarnation.
Or just more than that, maybe life extension in the 1700s in Germany. So, you know, it was a German base, the Canadian base. It was a paperclip base.
Do you know who I'm referring to when I say Karl Emmermann?
The name sounds familiar, but I'm not 100% sure.
Apparently, he was a high-level Nazi or industrialist who has since risen very high in the German secret breakaway civilization, space civilization. And also he has, a lot of agents running around doing lots of things to control things. And he was very involved with Project IBIS there at Camp Hero, our Air Force Base at the Montauk, as part of the Montauk projects.
I think there's a lot of German connection with Saturn and the moons of Saturn, the rings of Saturn, but I don't think the solar system is teeming with Fourth Reich bases. Mm-hmm. And there's billions of citizens in some kind of Fifth Reich empire. I think the solar system's pretty quiet generally, but I think there's a German connection with Saturn. I would agree with that.
Okay. John and others say that there's something known as it's like the German Federation, or the Federation of German Free Worlds. And then the Japanese breakaway, they call themselves the Empire of 1,000 Suns.
So that would be like the Axis forces from World
Exactly, War. Because they, at the end of World War II, they were the ones, first the Germans and then the Japanese, to go into space, and then with the Americans playing catch up. And then that's where things like the Philadelphia Experiment and Montauk Project come in.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The Canadian base, they were wearing modern versions of the SS uniforms.
Like the Hugo Boss stylish Nazi uniforms.
What was interesting, recently I saw some video footage of some of the American soldier parades that the so-called victory parades that wasn't a victory at all, but the victory parades after World War II. And when I was at Deanfield, I studied fashion, and I met European fashion designers because I was going to do that as a job. I was going to be involved in the fashion world, and I studied these videos of these victory marches the uniforms that they were wearing. The officers, they were like these smart leather jackets with these
Hugo Boss.
With these shirts and ties underneath and a jammer style helmet. But the same fashion designer who had designed the German uniforms had designed these new American uniforms that they'd worn at the end of World War II. So the same fashion designer had designed the same two uniforms, because I could tell, because I've been involved in the fashion world since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's Hugo Boss, who is known for designing, very stylish uniforms. Unfortunately, he applied them to the Nazi uniforms, got his treatment. But he definitely is a very strong fashion designer, iconic. Now, where do we go to get your Agent Buried Alive series of books at, James?
Well, the first book never came out. It was I had this lady had me sign a contract to publish it. At the end of the contract, she refused to publish it. So I think I was being gaslit. You can sort of send me down the road.
Do you still have the manuscript, or that's gone?
Well, that was the thing, because she didn't publish it. I published the majority of it myself, and then in the end, it was translated into Latin America, and it was translated into German, and it was translated into some other languages.
So there's like an e-version online.
Yeah, and that was all given away for free.
And then how about Agent Buried Alive #2?
And now we've got Agent Buried Alive Part 2, Escape from Tartarus, and this is being published professionally.
Now have you ever?
It deserves to be published professionally. People, deserve to have a sort of professional copy they can hold in their hands instead of an ebook.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Because it was being read out by this annoying robotic AI voice in some of it, the first book. So yeah.
So for people who want to find out more about you, do you prefer they try to reach you directly, or do you want to point them to like Miles's Bases Project episodes or anywhere else?
I'm more involved with Bob Osborne these days.
Or Bob Osborne? Okay.
Right next to me. Rebel Not Taken.
Okay, rebelnottaken.uk.co.
Yeah, and on his YouTube, we're up to about part 16 of our videos.
Showing.
Okay, so Bob Osborne's YouTube channel and also website for Rebel Not Taken.
And
excellent.
I'm on Instagram. I'm not on Facebook, but I'm on Instagram.
Okay. Well, I need to sign off myself now, but perhaps in the future, we can have you back, James, and we can delve into some of the specific programs or things more that you may have recall of now that we've this introductory episode for our Cosmic Ruh audience got to kind of get an overview of, a little bit of like how you first, remembered being a child in the programs, and then up into your adolescent years, and tracking you from being brought over to Canada as an infant, and then going back to the UK and being put with a foster family. And while dealing with just the everyday interracial school violence there at the school you went to near Peasmore, you may also have been being abducted to the base and taken places and off planet and exploited, I'll say, in the programs like so many of us. And so perhaps we can bring you back in the future and discuss maybe some of the specifics of some of those programs.
Okay, I'll be happy to go into the specifics. Thank you, Brian.
Okay, I'm not, unless you have to go, James. Brian, if you have to go, I understand. Do you have to go?
I'm going to have to sign off it soon, yeah.
Okay, because I just had a couple questions about the Marduk track, the Killer for Life album. Okay. And you mentioned Star of David, and known as the Seal of Solomon, which carries deep esoteric meaning, and the symbology of that, and being part of the tribe, or you believe that you possibly are connected with the tribe of Dan. I mean, I had questions. Maybe I don't want to keep you if you need to go, but I would. Definitely, there's more that I have questions.
We'll bring it. We'll save it for next time.
I'm happy to answer like one or two questions. It's up to you, Aida.
I'll see you later. Thank you.
Okay, Brian. Thank you for joining us, Brian.
Of course, it was a pleasure. Cheers, James. Great to finally speak with you in person.
All right. All right. Bye-bye. Okay. So thank you for staying with me, James. I was trying to be respectful and allow Brian to have time to ask you questions, but I had some of my own, and and that was the new track, Marduk, the Killer for Life album. You referenced the Elders of Zion in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Can you share what those symbols and the themes represent to you personally?
I think there could be connections to the Priory of Zion, the Priory of Sion, which is actually spelt with an S, isn't it? S-I-O-N.
Okay.
As opposed to the Elders of Zion, which is spelt Z-I-O-N. But I think they're the same organization. The people that in the US military, Department of Defense, who gave me my security clearance, they were part of the Elders of Zion, the 33rd degree of Zion. And they seemed to be insinuating that they were part of the Priory of Zion, which they seemed to be insinuating it was the same organization, just with different names.
Yeah. Okay. How about you mentioned the Star of David, and known as the Seal of Solomon, which carries deep esoteric. What is the which, I guess, how does the symbol connect to your own understanding of power, protection, and ancient bloodlines? Like, how does that resonate within you? Your own connection to that is, I guess, I don't really know how to ask the question, but I think you get what I mean.
It's almost like the macabre, like the symbol that you've got behind you, which I think that's something to do with that is kind of inside you or around a person that's involved in this, and it could even be to do with levitation and manifesting physical objects out of thin air, which is known as MPO, manifest production observership, which I think you need to use that symbol to do that. The seal.
James Rink made that for me, by the way. He created that logo for me.
The 3D Seal of Solomon.
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to be it's supposed to be Merkaba, not the Star of David. Yeah. Okay. You have spoken about tracing a bloodline that descends from the tribe of Dan. Can you elaborate on what the lineage signifies and how it relates to the larger story you're revealing through your music and past projects?
I think it's to do with the Anunnaki who came down from the stars, and landed in the Middle East at that time. That was one of those tribes, the lost tribes, and then came up into the modern world through the Middle East and into places like Germany and France.
Would you do you think that the Anunnaki and the Elohim are the same beings?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Andrew Collins is a great expert in that.
I'll have to have a look at it.
The writer. But yeah, I would say so.
Okay. Well, I really would love to have you come back. Maybe just you and I do a show together, and I will come up with other questions, because I have so many questions. I mean, I've been a follower of you for a long time. Brian may not be as familiar with your work as I am, but I mean, I remember so much detail of stuff, information that you've shared that was super helpful to me and other people that I've met in the community. That, there are a lot of people that hold you in high esteem, James. I hope you know that, and you've helped so many of us. Yeah. So, and I'm going to talk to Miles about coming down to see you when I come in December. It's going to be my first time doing a presentation on stage, and I'm going to do my best. I mean, they've done something with I feel like I've been targeted, like my linguistics part of my brain has been targeted, and I get
tongue-tied.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
And it's yeah. So,
well,
but
I mean, Bob is trying to put it together to get Miles and I to sit down in Zena. So should we see where it goes then?
Sure.
Okay.
And I'll be in touch. I'll reach out to you on your email and keep in contact. And if there's anything that I can do to help you or support you in any way, just send me a message, please. I'm
Okay.
happy that you're home and you're safe and that things are starting to move forward for you, and you're using all of what you've experienced in the past and doing something creative with it and being able to help others. And I think that's fantastic.
Well, apart from all the suffering in prison, I did a BA degree in political science, so something positive came out of it.
Very good. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, James. And I'll be
Okay.
in touch. And yep, we'll figure out another time, maybe in a couple months or even sooner if you feel up to it, and have you come back.
Okay then, Ida. Thanks
All
for
right.
having me on.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye. Why is it not?